Hi, welcome to another video in the Stamping on Transparencies class for 2peasinAbucket.com. This video is the third in the series and it focuses on stamping on transparencies with acrylic paint. Here's a card example that shows this technique. Basically, you're just stamping with acrylic paint as you would with ink, and that's how those circles were created on the background of this card. The first tip is just showing you how to stamp with the paint. What I do is I squeeze a little bit of paint onto a piece of scrap paper. Any kind of acrylic paint works. I like Ranger's Dabber inks, Ranger's Dabber paints, Heidi Swap paints, anything. And then what I do is I use a piece of scrap paper just to smooth the paint out into a very thin layer. Now I just ink up my stamp as I would with any kind of ink. Here I discovered that my paint was still too thick. I need it to be thinner so it wouldn't all glob up on the stamp. So I just thinned it out a little bit, and now I'm just going to stamp. Now when you stamp with this, you want to stamp very lightly and straight down, straight up. You don't want to do any wobbling or press too hard. This technique works best with any kind of shape stamps like these circles or dots. It doesn't really work well with stamps that have a lot of detail to it. But for creating backgrounds on clear cards or clear accents for scrapbook pages, the basic shapes work better anyways. And I just clean my stamp off with a baby wipe. That way the acrylic paint doesn't dry on it. Now I'm going to add just a little bit more stamping. Here I'm just going to use a blue paint and just do the same thing. You can see me smearing the paint down into a very thin layer. And then going back with stamping. Here you can see the circle has little dots, and you are able to pick up the little dots in the image. And now for some green paint. Now this paint will take some time to dry, and if you scratch on it, it will scratch off. However, normally people don't scratch on their cards, and also your scrapbook pages end up in page protectors, so I think it's just fine to leave it as is. Now, when I create clear cards, I always like to put something on the back of my embellishments so that you don't see the adhesive through on the other side. So here's just showing how I did that for this card. I'm just going to glue this felt flower. It's from Creative Imagination's Creative Cafe line. Just gluing it right to the front of the card. Now I'm going to glue some circles behind it. This one's going to go right on the inside of the front of the card, right behind the flower. So when you open it up, you don't see the adhesive on the flower. Now I want a circle to go on the back of the clear card. It's the same size and I just lined it up. Now this one's going to go on the inside of the clear card, and that's where I will write my message. So there's circles on every side so that you don't see any of the adhesive on the other side. Now this tip is just for adding buttons. This is just something that I like to do, and I thought I'd share it here. This is just some inexpensive string. You can find it at just about any store. And I'm winding it through the buttons. Now when I get to the other side, I just hold the string over to the side and I put either a glue dot, or here I'm doing a foam dot because I want it to be raised, putting it right onto the string on the back, and I'm cutting off the extra. So now it will look like I actually did some sewing to add my button to the card, but in fact I just am glue dotting it on. Really easy to do. It gives a nice finished look to the button. Now here I'm going to just stamp a greeting on the inside of the card, and I'll write my message underneath it. Sometimes I make this card, I like to put a photo there on the circle on the left, just for something fun. Now here's just a way that I want to show how I fix stamped images if I don't clearly stamp it. I didn't stamp this all the way. Instead of doing it over again, I just go in with a black pen and fix it up. Now sometimes I get ink where I don't want it to be, and if it's just a little bit, instead of redoing it, I just like to fix it. Here I had some paint and some ink, and what I do is I just carefully scratch it away with an X-Acto knife. Just very gently. And this is very subtle, and if you look at the card real closely, you might be able to tell I did this, but nobody who ever would receive this card would notice it. It's just me. I would notice it because I knew it happened. That's about it. And now I just erase away all the extra little paper shavings, and you'd never know it's there. Just a good way to fix little mistakes that normally you would just have to start over with. Now, one of the fun things I like to do with clear cards is add gems or tiny little embellishments to it because it makes it look like they're just kind of floating there on the card. These are gems from Hero Arts. And here's the final card. I hope you learned some fun ways to use acrylic paints for your stamping on Transparencies. For more information on this layout, including the supplies used, visit 2peasinabucket.com and be sure to check out the videos 1 and 2 from this class series. Thank you.